Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Hope you've had a great day. Today, my name is April Starks, and I am the lead training partner and counseling specialist here at Olive Tree Resources. And we endeavor to partner with families to be a resource to assist teens, corporate teams, as well as families in development. And so, one thing that we have planned for 2021 is every first Tuesday of the month, we plan to come and have power parenting sessions. And power stands for parents overcoming with wisdom, education, and resources. And we're going to hit on topics that relate to parents who have teenagers. We feel that one of our main goals is to make sure that our teens have the bridge that they need to cross over into young adulthood. And so the resources that we offer promote that and strive to activate that for our teens. Our Teen Life program that we offer is the leadership development and kind of career guided mentorship program for teens between the ages of 13 and 17. So now we're currently still enrolling for this year, but we're wanting to partner with parents to assist them along this journey. For those who may be joining us today and even in the future on the Tuesday sessions of the first of the month, we would love your feedback. So please put comments in the section in the comment section, or if you have questions, provide questions for us. And you can always visit our website, which is olivetreepartner.com, and send us a message, and we'll definitely get back with you for things that you need. But we want to talk about a subject today that is very dear to my heart, but I want us to dive into it as parents. Why your teen is no longer your baby. And I want to preface what I'm about to say so that no one is getting upset with me, because I understand that the word baby is utilized a lot of times as a term of endurement. We sometimes call people we see and meet, "Hey baby, how you doing?" Or a significant other, "That's my babe, that's my baby." But specifically tonight, we want to talk about teenagers and how that particular label, if you will, or term of endurement that I know that we're using out of love can sometimes stifle the growth and the development during the adolescent stage for our teens. Also, I want parents to take this time as we talk about it tonight to have an assessment of themselves, to maybe even see, is there a connection or a tie to you continuing to call your child, your son, your daughter who is transitioning into young adulthood, your baby? Because sometimes if we take some introspective thoughts and think of it, there's something in there that may be making us hold on to that particular title for our child. And so that takes some self-work. And even if you need to talk to someone once you begin to kind of excavate that area for yourself, that's important, because it's important to work through the process, even for ourselves as adults. But we want to make sure that we're helping our teens get through this time of their life. I'm going to try to share my screen here. This is my first time doing this actually through StreamYard. So I'm going to try my best to be diligent in sending this before us. Let's see here. And hopefully this will show. But I'm going to go through it real quickly so that. Okay, so our title today, Why Your Teen is No Longer Your Baby. And this is our power parenting session so that we can overcome with the wisdom that we gain as parents. Now, this is a picture that I found, and I thought it was good because it's fitting just to show the fact that this is how our teens look with the pacifier in their mouth every time we introduce them, and opposed to saying, "This is my son, Jordan. This is my daughter, Ayana." Sometimes we may find ourselves just not intentionally doing it, but we'll say, "This is my baby." And a lot of times, this is how they feel on the inside when you're saying that, and they're cringing and they're shrinking because psychologically, that term is really bothering them right now in their cognitive development. And that's important for us to recall and remember when we're introducing them. Now, the human lifespan, I'm just put in 3 chunks, but we know there's different layers actually to each area here: childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. And we're right here as parents. If we have teens, we're in that middle stage of the lifespan, adolescence, which is very integral in their development, and it helps them bridge over to self-sufficiency and productivity as an adult. Adolescence, we have to ask ourselves, is it change or a crisis? And sometimes it seems like a crisis because there's so many transitions happening at one time for our young people, whether it's their physical makeup, biological, cognitive things are happening, social, emotional things are happening for them. And they're really trying to find out their self-identity and developing during these teen years. And it's easy for us parents. It is so easy for us to forget where we came from and even the feelings that we had in our parenting challenges, to forget that we were once an adolescent, we were once a teen, and all the dynamics that took place during that time frame for us. So when we sit and just kind of recall that, it may give us a little more sympathy and apathy to help push them through that time frame. And also recognizing that we need help. It's okay. We need help to transition in those time frames. And I would highly and strongly encourage the parents of teens to make sure that you have a strong base of other individuals who are assisting you in the development and the self-identity and confidence that your child is needing during this time. That's why you see the pull away from you. And a lot of times we do say, "Oh, I'm losing my baby. They're not my baby anymore." We'll say that, or we'll feel that emotion because they are actually trying to find their own self-identity through this time frame of their life. So there's a shift in their self-understanding from physical to a lot of psychological development that's taking place at this time. And I'm gonna show just a short, it's a picture here of just how during this time of adolescence, the frontal cortex is really being developed for them and helping them decipher right from wrong, and their impulses are starting to develop during this time frame. Their independence, definitely, we see that. Their language and how to articulate what they're feeling, all those things are happening, and their brain is being matured during this time frame. I want to bring up a term that we can kind of flow with as parents to help us even sometimes in our frustrations when we're working with our teens. Co-regulation. When they are in this time frame of adolescence, co-regulation happens, and that is when they're trying to control their own destiny, but at the same time we still have to steward them during their adolescent stage, because we are definitely being that bridge for them to help them make those decisions, but giving them more independence in those decisions and providing the wisdom, the power, parents overcoming with the wisdom, education, and resources. And this is why we wanted to talk about this, because this has given us an education piece of some brief things to go over together in our time, and probably some things that you've heard before through maybe their general practitioner when they go have their physical and they're sharing and asking about some different developmental changes for the teen. And so once again, this is a power parenting session: parents overcoming with wisdom, education, and resources. And I wanted to just share my screen real quick and then not share it to get back to seeing the comments and different things like that here. Let me see if I can stop sharing. Okay, great. So I want to make sure, hopefully you saw that. So somebody, the image, oh, it isn't showing. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. Oh man, I'm not good at this. Like I said, it's my first time. Oh man, I'm so mad. Let me see if I can go through it really, really quick if it pops back up. Let me see if it will show here. Okay, so this is, I won't talk it all through again, but our topic today is why your teen is no longer your baby. And then the things that I meant, this is the picture I was talking about. So sorry you couldn't see it at first. How, he's a cute little boy, but listen, we don't want our children to have the pacifier when they're moving into this area. These were the 3 stages that I mentioned, childhood, and see, they're in the middle, the adolescence. We're bridging them to adulthood. And these are some of the things that I mentioned. And this was the picture of the brain and the frontal cortex development that takes place during adolescence. And then that was the last screen that I shared. So thank you for telling me that I couldn't. Okay, great. I'm glad you can see it real quick and I can just run through that. But that's what I wanted to talk about for us to touch on that. Now, you'll find this very interesting that a lot of times in industrialized nations and communities such as the United States of America, we are very blessed here. And what happens is in a lot of other places, a lot of other countries, that bridge is not as long. We elongate the childhood process here in the States for our teens. And therefore, when they graduate and when they move towards young adulthood, a lot of times they are lost in the process because we have elongated that childhood human lifespan stage too long. By the time that they're reaching 12, we should begin to start moving them definitely into more responsibility, more expression of their identity and what they desire to do. Sometimes we've called it because we have probably encountered this ourselves that, oh, that's being too grown. They're too grown. And yes, we're going to gear them and steer them and guide them in certain aspects, but we don't want to stifle the growth. We want to make sure that we're pushing them across that bridge into young adulthood because they're dealing with the physical development, the emotional development, as well as the cognitive development needed for them to begin to make logical decisions, because all of that is taking place during adolescence. Now, these are conversations that our parents didn't have with us. So that's why it's time for us to go forth in power through the wisdom that we've had from the things that we've encountered, but then gaining additional education that is needed to help us during this time. And then the resources. And sometimes those resources are other people. And not being the parent that says, no one else can talk to our child, or no one else can share it with our child, or no one else can give like we can, and definitely not. But making sure we're building a construct for them that will help them get through this stage, and exposure to other individuals. Yes, we're going to be strategic in who we outsource our greatest commodity, which is our children, to. But we want to make sure that they are developing and learning the skills they need as their mind is being developed. And that definitely starts in middle school. And that's why they're going through so many stages during that particular time. The social self-concept, the academic self-concept. And if you're taking notes, you can begin to talk to your children about some of these things. Where are they in their academic self-concept about themselves? What are they feeling about that? Socially, what is their self-concept about themselves socially, so that we can help them work through the awkwardness of this time. All the hormones and the changes are real. They're happening for them. And as well as that, frontal cortex things that's taking place for them cognitively, it is also making the adjustments in other parts of their body for them, which is sometimes hard for us. That's going to be one topic. We're going to talk about spilling the tea. So we're not going to dive into that today, because there are certain topics that we need to lay the groundwork for, to have the talks, spill the tea about some things that are sometimes even uncomfortable to talk about. And peradventure, we were never talked to about. So it makes it extra hard to have the conversation with our children. But sometimes that's when resources come in to help us as well to navigate those conversations. Their emotional self-concepts, how are they feeling emotionally? How do they deal with certain encounters? Because is this change or a crisis? It's actually just change, and change is beautiful. And we want them to see it as thus and not a crisis. Because when they see it that way, that's when their emotions begin to collapse at the face of what we know as life. And if we can help them navigate that during their teen years, as that central frontal cortex is developing, that give them the certain insights to make spontaneous decisions, and then they make it properly. If we can help them adjust during this time, they're going to be so much better as adults. So much better as adults. Physically, some of the self-concepts that they have. So these are hopefully some things that you know about your children. How do they feel about their social self-concept, emotional, academic, physical, and then this their overall, maybe even family concept, self-concept. Where do they feel like they fit in the family? Why is that a good question? Because sometimes, depending on the age of the child and where they fall, it may be the only child. How are they feeling being the only child? For me, for example, I have 3 children. So talking to my oldest to say, what is your general concept in the family of yourself being the oldest? Does he feel pressure? Does he feel weighty? Like, this is too much for me. I don't want to, I didn't ask to be the oldest. They're always looking to me for certain things, right? Seeing how they feel about that. My youngest, being the middle child, how does that feel for you? Do you feel like the oldest has trailblazed in certain ways, and then the baby, the youngest, is babied all the time? How do they feel? Ask them about that. The youngest child, how do you feel? Your siblings are getting older. Right now, you're the youngest. How do you feel about that? So talking to your children through those self-concepts about themselves will be very important. Why? Because it helps them even to build the relationships that they're building right now in middle school and high school, and how to navigate even some difficult relational encounters that they would have. It starts at home with us having that dialogue, and it pushes them out of that baby stage. It pushes them out of the baby stage, not allowing them to be comfortable in that childhood lifespan area of life. We want to make sure that we're doing that part. Now, how do we co-regulate? Sometimes it's asking them exactly what they want, and then being open to kind of letting go of the rope a little bit, so that they can recognize that, wow, I am growing up. How do we take the label of my baby off of them? Number one, as I mentioned earlier, first finding out what place do you come from when you say that. And we understand, like I said, it is a term of endearment and definitely love. But where are you? What is your space? And that's every parent's individual examination of themselves, probably in their private time. Where does that come from? And you'll be interested to know, to be honest, because I've talked to some people that sometimes that comes from a space that they felt they were left. It takes them back to a space in their childhood where they were missing or longing for something. And then they displace that energy and what they feel like was missing onto their children. And so they want to keep them in that space unknowingly and unintentionally. But that's why self-examination is so important for us as parents. It only makes us better. And then it's going to make our children even better, because we want them to be self-sufficient, independent, very strong adults, and not dependent upon us. I want to encourage some parents to be okay with that. Your children are going to grow up and one day you're going to be an empty nester. And so even now, if you see that approaching for you, if your child just entered middle school, begin to start thinking about, what does it look like for me when they graduate? What do I want to do? Because what we do sometimes is get stuck. And then when they do get older, we are just holding on to that blankie or holding on to the, I wish I had a little teddy bear or something. Or sometimes we're like that boy on the PowerPoint that has the pacifier. Oh, I need something to soothe me because, my baby, my comfort, my identity has left the nest, because our whole identity was in raising our children, raising our baby for 18 years, the baby for 18 years. And so there's some work that we have to do as parents, and that's why your teen is no longer your baby. We have to push them out of the bassinet so that they are, even at this stage as teenagers, beginning to creatively think about how to build a bassinet, right? They should be moving into a creative flow for themselves in what they desire to do and to be. That is so important. I want to also share that in our world of developmental psychology, it's important for us that we learn the growth process. So I showed you those 3 phases of childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. But in the psychological growth development process, let's look at 3 areas here as well. The biological portion that's taking place for them. They are no longer, you're not changing their diapers anymore. So no, they're not a baby. Cognitively, no, we're not any longer trying to teach them words, because at the preteen and teen age, they have already begun to form words and sometimes starting to get a little smart aleck. And then we have to go and co-regulate there to help them master their communication skills just a little bit better. But yet letting them know it's okay to express, because we are wanting you to grow in this particular area in your development. So there's that biological and that cognitive development and the socio-emotional. The socio-emotional is important because sometimes when we introduce them, I think I mentioned this before, we introduce them as our baby. Oh, this is my baby. And that is totally messing up our teens. And then we may laugh it off, or, we wonder what's going on. And then they're just like cringing. That's right, Ms. Ashley. That is so true. Yes, the parents identifying. Yes, that is a great point. Identifying or defining successive failure of their children. I really like that. So true. So sometimes we got to look at where we are, even as parents, and that's only going to help us be better as well as help our children. And it happens. So we really got to think about that. My oldest just went to college, so I had to think about some things. Okay, wow, that happened fast. What just happened? And starting to think more about, what do I want? Because my youngest, and I no longer call her baby, even though I know she's my baby, she's the youngest, right? But I intentionally, when I introduce her, this is my teen daughter. Sometimes I'll say teen when I introduce her, because I want her to feel the empowerment of her growth. And a lot of times when I address my sons, I say, hello, son, to let him know that, or young man. So just looking at our wording, and you have to know that about your child. Where is their confidence level, and where are they even in their self-development? So then you can begin to pull out keywords that then push them. Words are so powerful. And that's why it's important to not continue to just call them baby all the time, because it stunts their growth. Begin to think of other words that empower them to where they're going. Let's just say you knew your child, wants to be a doctor. You can begin to speak that, to them. Hello, Dr. Starks. You are awesome. You are, begin those words that empower them to help bridge the gap in the development that they're going on. And that socio-emotional part is very real, even now, especially during this time and some things that we have encountered, even in our country. They need that socio-emotional development to carry them over, because they are our future leaders. They are the individuals who are going to come up with the next that is needed to make us successful in our communities. Well, I'm gonna pull back, in our families, because what we're building right now, the constructs we're building for our teens, are producing the next strong families, which in turn is building the next strong communities and states, and then the nation. Like, it evolves into that level there, starting with them personally in our family dynamic. And unfortunately, the school cannot do that for us totally. So as parents, we do have a job. I commend parents. I love parents. I always applaud parents, because our job is not easy, and there's no cookie cutter to it. But we can overcome with power, wisdom, education, and resources. And that comes through us sharing and talking, dialoguing, as well as seeing what is out there to give us some thoughts to consider as we're raising our children. And then we begin to shape it into what it looks like for us in our family dynamic. Lastly, and I'm going to get off here. Lastly, I just want to leave something with you all. And this is something that leans more towards a spiritual aspect from a biblical state. And I just wanted to leave this because I thought it was good. In Luke chapter 2 and 52, it says, Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. And I thought this was really good because it hits the 3 points that I wanted to end on, and why it's important to help our teens grow into young adulthood. They're not going backwards into childhood. They're going into young adulthood. It says Jesus grew in wisdom. That's the cognitive piece. We have to help our children grow in their wisdom. Can a 16-year-old have wisdom? Yes. Sometimes we feel like they don't, like they don't know nothing. There are some things that they have strategically been given at their prospective ages for their generation. And they may not have everything, but that's the reason you are their parent. It was strategic. You are special, that you were given this special gift of your children or your child, however many that you have. You were given that gift to steward, no matter what the situation was that your child was birthed in, right? You were given a gift because you're special, and there was something in you that was needed to give to that special gift. And that special gift also has things that have been stewarded by you. I'm around these emergent. Yes, that is so true. And they do. And I want to commend them that they have wisdom at their age. Sometimes doesn't need to be guided. And Miss Ashley, you probably know this more than many of us because of the volume of teens that you deal with on a daily basis. And thank you for your service in the education system. But sometimes we have to steer them because it might be a little far-fetched. So we kind of help them as they're developing in that frontal cortex there, and that cognitive growth is happening for them. We give them that discernment of balance of the logic and the reasoning for them as they're going forward. But it says, look, he grew in wisdom. So that the cognitive part, and then stature, the biological part that's happening for them right now. Some individuals, let's say 14, probably more developed than me as a 40-some-odd-year-old woman. It's happening. All of that's happening for them right now as teens. So no, they're not babies. It says in favor with God. So that's a spiritual aspect. So that's something that was thrown in there outside of the 3 that I mentioned. And then it says, and man, the socio, emotional, relational development that they're having right now. So the cognitive, the biological, the spiritual and the socio-emotional aspects of them growing right now is so important as teenagers. And we can no longer treat them as babies because they need to grow in all of those areas. We're pushing them to adulthood, and that is our goal. So thank you for joining me tonight. And hopefully when we come together in the 1st of April, we're going to talk about being able to address our teens and spill the tea on some topics that may be uncomfortable, but how do we address that for them and with them? And you may have some input. We want people to thank you, Miss Ashley, for commenting. Thank you for Lawrence for joining and commenting. Those who may watch this on the replay, please put comments, questions, thoughts, because that's how we glean from each other as parents. I think even sometimes us dialoguing a little more will help us in our process and equipping the teens as they move into young adulthood. They are going to be great men and women in our communities. So thank you for being the parent that you are, uniquely who you are, and your child is your gift to you because you had something special to steward them into the greatness that they will be and that they are right now. I am April Starks, Olive Tree Resources. Thank you so much. You can contact us at olivetreepartner.com as we strive to continue to embrace, empower, and elevate leaders. And check out our Teen Life program. It is available for teens to gain the life principles. We bring application to their education. Talk to you soon.